All right, Fight Fan, special guest on the line, friend to the room, Mr. Game Bread himself, Jorge Masvidal.
What's up, champ?
What's up, fellas?
Listen, man, I love this. You stepping into the boxing world, you come from, even though you've been fighting in mixed martial arts, you come from beating people up in the backyards, but you did it with boxing skill.
Right.
You did it with striking. Is that really your first love, boxing, outside of mixed martial arts?
No, not secretly. Every time I've been ever asked, my first love was boxing. Okay. I'll never forget it. I was like 6, 7 years old when I stumbled upon it in the living room. I was just at a family party, Latin family party, dancing, having fun, chilling. I wandered off and went into the living room, and there was a boxing match. I don't recall who was the first ever boxing match.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Because usually people say, "Oh, it's Mike Tyson, it's Sugar Ray," and you don't even remember. You was just boxing.
I was just like, "What is this?" I had been exposed to like soccer, maybe like a little bit of basketball and stuff at the time, but none of it like captured my attention young. Boxing was like, and all the way until I discovered UFC till about 11 years old, it was just boxing which I consumed like growing up. That's why I'm still much a fan of boxing now.
Yes, sir.
Of the old school guys that I grew up idolizing, the ones that were like way before me, so boxing was definitely my first love, and still.
Well, who was the guy that the first fight that you noticed, you didn't remember who they was, but when you started remembering names, who were the guys that you couldn't miss? You said, man, I love the way he fights.
Oh, we got a lot to talk about.
Throw a couple out.
Because nobody could touch him. Pernell Whitaker was one of my favorites.
Oh man, that's my favorite fighter of all time.
As soon as I saw Sweet Pea, I was like, what the this, he just made it look different, and there was something that in boxing and MMA, you can't win a fight. And we've talked about this before, us three, that in MMA, you can't really win a fight like being defensive, going backward and landing, and being like, accurate, In boxing, you can. And I remember Sweet Pea would just make people look like they didn't belong. And then that was amazing to see. Obviously, like Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali, Roberto Duran, all these guys, as I started like downloading all their styles and what they brought to the game, I was like obsessed, man. Thomas Hearns, and all these greats that I coming across.
Yes, sir.
I read some books on Sugar Ray. I remember like in school, and like Sugar Ray Leonard as well. And that was like, man, wow, these guys are the truth, So I got to see their whole life through the book, and then I started watching more of their matches. It was crazy, man. I still have that love for boxing, So I actually have a pro fight which happened like 15 years ago, 16 years ago. So I'm 1-0 as a pro boxer.
Get out of here.
Oh, wow.
I never even looked you up on BoxRec. It might not even be on BoxRec, actually.
Might not even be. I'm before BoxRec.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, somehow you convinced all of these MMA guys who are going on your card that you have here and as debuts, you got like 11 guys out of 18 debuts. You convinced these guys to come into the boxing world. How'd you do that?
Well, first, me and my matchmaker, my partner Dean Toole, we wanted to bring. We're both huge fans. Same thing with him. His first loved boxing, then he got into MMA, and he loves to both of them just like me. So when we started putting these cards together, this will be our 4th card that we put together. Eventually, we always wanted to say, maybe not in the beginning because of budgeting, the money, and it's a business, and we have to grow it accordingly. But once it was time to strike, we could strike. We wanted to have a card that from top to bottom, you'd be interested in watching. You'd want to spend your time and money to watch this. And not just like right now, the Tommy Fury-Jake Paul fight, you might not remember the co-main event. I don't want you to leave my event without knowing the 5 fights that you saw in front of your face. I want you to be able to talk about them and be like, man, those were evenly matched, aggressive coming out for each other, and that's what we want to bring, So we started getting this card together, and long behold, Dean Toole's like very, very close with Roy Jones Jr., Roy Jones Jr.'s promotions. He's also close with Senior. He's had a long relationship with them, working with the Jones, and he threw the name out there, and I was like, Roy Jones, come on, bro. The Roy Jones is like, yeah.
There is no 50-50 fight when you're talking about Roy Jones.
Yeah, it was like, you're talking about Roy Jones Jr.? And he's like, yeah, he wants to fight. And, he might be interested in this. And I was like,
wow. I mean, how did that make you feel? Like, this guy's one of the GOATs. He's fighting on your card now.
Roy in his prime to me is in his different planet. There's, all the guys that I mentioned before, but Roy Jones Jr., from when he comes to his prime, there's nobody like him.
Nobody.
Ever. Never a big
There's nobody like him. Who can go and play a basketball game and then beat the after 2 hours of running up and down sprints and just beat the dog? There's nobody like Roy, you know. His athleticism, the style, you know.
When did the idea come about, though, Jorge? Like to step in the boxing world and actually put a card together, that game bred, you know, this whole idea. When did it spark?
Well, I got in total 3 promotions that we worked 4 promotions: Island Fighting, Icon Fighting Championships, Game Bred Boxing, and GFC, which is bare knuckle. And the other 3 that I mentioned, we put on about 3 shows at GFC. 7 shows, 8 shows with Icon just last year in 1 year. And with Island Fights, we got over like 70 shows there, you know. Wow. So it's a long doing thing that we've been doing. Just we as me and Dean too, that we've been putting all this into it. You know, we started with MMA promotions, and then we were just messing around talking about the boxing. Like, why aren't we doing it? Why don't we just make it happen? Because we're shooting this just like you two guys. I always see you guys on Instagram. We're just shooting this blah, blah, blah. How about who would have won in their prime, this and that? And that's what me and him do.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
Let's put the money behind it. Let's put the words on paper and let's make these fights happen. And that's basically how it happened. I was like, Roy Jones Jr. versus Anthony Pettis. One of the rawest dudes that was an MMA, flashiest, could beat, jump off the cage and knock you out. He's done it multiple times in his career.
That's crazy.
Crazy 2-time champion, you know.
Well, who wins that fight though, Jorge? How do you see that fight playing out, that Roy Jones fight in Pettis?
Oh man, I don't know, man. I never want to bet against Roy. That's
you better not bet against Roy. And if he beats Roy, me and my friends, we're going to be jumping in that ring, you know what I'm saying? Because he's a legend. He better not beat Roy.
It's crazy. It's like, you know.
It's like when Evander Holyfield lost to Vitor. I was like, how can we watch something like this?
Yeah. But,
you know what I mean?
But that's the same way I feel. Because, you know, in Holyfield's case, it's like, man, it's not fair. You know, I know he's just getting the check, but, you know, Vitor would have never been able to hang with, I think.
No.
You know, I don't think I know. You know, Holyfield in his prime was a different animal. It's a dog, man. You got a guy coming at you for 15 rounds. He's gonna throw hard from that first bell to the last bell and put every those shots. Holyfield's one of my favorites as well, you know.
Yes.
Speaking of boxing, Jorge, what was your take on the Tommy Fury Jake Paul fight? I know you and him have gone back and forth. Jake Paul, that is. Could that ever happen? I mean, he's called you out at times. Would you step in a boxing ring and fight Jake Paul?
Man, you know, when I got into the sport of combat, I got into it for just 2 things. 2 things alone: fight the best in the world and get the most money possible.
Yes.
Most money. Like, I'm not fighting the best in the world right now. I'm going to fight Joe Blow, but I want to get paid fighting Joe Blow. You got to give me money to pay this fool, because I really take my craft seriously. And that's why I'm not trying to diss Jake now, but I didn't discover my passion at 20, whatever you did it. I did it since a kid, and I've only done this since a kid, and I still continue to do this. That's why I'm one of the top welterweights in my sport currently, you know. So when these numbers from Tommy Fury come back and stuff, and I see like, man, Jake sold a bunch of pay-per-views, and maybe it makes sense then, because he's definitely not anything of the world's best, you know. And I'm not trying to diss on him, but there wasn't maybe, you know, of an event of that level. Maybe it wasn't type of boxing that I'm used to, you know, because I'm an avid boxing fan.
Right.
And the fighters to be like a little bit better, more action. So I'm not trying to diss them either, but it's just like, they're not the world's best, and if I'm not making the most money with Jake, I mean, I could just pass on that, you know. I'll go put on a boxing event and make much more money than fight this guy. It doesn't do anything for me because he's not the world's best or makes money. So it's just something like
but as a fighter, when you watch a fight like that, I know you can't help but say to yourself, man, I beat both of these guys. Is that what you were saying to yourself? Man,
I got over 50 fights in the game. You know, I got numerous knockouts, and the thing that comes easiest to me, the most natural, you know, first would be boxing, first and foremost. My hand-eye, my speed, my power, things that I feel God always gave to me since the first day I got in the gym compared to all the little boys around me. It was just, since a kid, the coaches could see it. I knew it. My hands were faster than everybody considerably, you know. Right. So I feel in the sport of just boxing, I would wreck them. You know, I would do damage to them. I'm a conditioned athlete. I'm not going to get tired throwing blows, and Jake Paul just wouldn't be ready for that heat, man. You know, it's different. I'm throwing with bad intentions, and like I said, I'm a pro of 50 fights. I know I'm not going to get tired throwing heat, you know, and I'm going to really come to take your head off, you know. You're going to have to do some really evasive moves in that ring to get away from me. And in boxing, Jake hasn't hit that stride yet where he could be a good, clean boxer, keep me at the end of his jabs, check hook his way out of problems, not let me put him in the ropes. Because I'm not the best boxer, but I know where I'm going to be good at. I'm going to put him in the inside, I'm going to put him in the corner and at him for like 4 or 5 rounds till he starts to drop those hands, and then I'm going to go for the top, you know. And that's something he's not going to be able to avoid because he doesn't have that craftsmanship yet. I don't see him cutting angles, you know, weaving in and out of punches, circling away, you know. So I think...
Speaking of cutting angles, Jorge, let's talk about a fighter who's good at that and putting pressure on fighters and does it skillfully. Gervonta Davis is going to be fighting another very skilled fighter in Ryan Garcia. Big fight, biggest fight in boxing. It's going to be huge in April. A lot of people giving Tank the edge. What's your take on that?
Here's how I see the fight. Because every time a fight gets announced, I look at it and I like doze off and I see it in my head, and that's usually like what I run with, especially my first initial raw thoughts. I think the first 4 rounds, Gervonta's kind of studies him, chills out, you know. Ryan has a lot of success in those rounds. And then I can see Gervonta starting to like pick up the intensity heavily, knowing his shots, placing shots a lot better, and making it ugly for Ryan. I lean more times than not. I would lean on this fight heavily on Gervonta's, but Ryan's a gamer. He's got speed. He's got power. I think if Ryan just like lays it all out and comes to fight those first 4 rounds is also probably like his best chances because he's got the reach. He can keep him out. It's just Hank has this radar, man. Once those like that little studying phase goes by, you see he's just walking guys down. Yeah. He just knows already exactly what you're going to do. He knows where your head's going to be when he fakes here. He knows you're going to be somewhere in this area, and he's just checkmating you after that. He's just going fake here, go there, and I know that it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, and he like lines his ducks up in a row and then boom, you know. So
it doesn't go to distance.
I would lean heavy on Gervonta.
It doesn't go to distance though, the fight. You don't think it? You don't see it going 12 or 12.
I don't see it going to 12 with either one of them. Yeah, I don't. I think Ryan could also catch him, especially like early on with that insane speed that he has, the reach, the power. I can see him catching him early. But if it did went to decision, I'd be surprised.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go back to your boxing event. Have you or any of the other guys that you're working with, have you guys ever approached like a Matchroom, Top Rank, or any of these big boxing promoters, Golden Boy, and tried to get them on board?
No, and the reason being is my team over at Gamebird Boxing is very small. You know, we have a whole investor department, we have a whole other department, everything. But the guys that eventually call the shots is just me and Dean Toole. And we're able to move very efficient like that. There'll come a time when we'll be talking to any promotion because we're all open for business. We want to work with everybody, all the best promotions. But it just hasn't happened yet, you know. But we want to be in boxing and put boxing fights together and cards that are great from top to bottom and be as transparent as possible as a promoter. Like, this is the money that I get that I'm supposed to give so-and-so. Well, that's what I'm giving, you know. Wow. So there's no problems. I'm a fighter first, you know, and I've fought for promotions that, you know, 6-7 months after they went under, and guess what? The money disappeared with them. And guess who didn't get paid? Guess who the first ones to get were?
The fighters.
First ones to get the fighters. So I always see it like I'm gonna look out for these guys, and just from a business standpoint and doing good business, they're gonna want to do business with us. Trust me, you know. Right. And that's what I tell everybody. Like the fights, the big names will come. It's just you have to do business good, and I feel that. As far as promoters go, nobody's going to do better business for these fighters than me because I want these guys to get paid. I want to give them good share of what they bring in. Here, go get your money so you can keep coming back and we can keep putting on big fights and no bull.
Yeah, just like Oscar De La Hoya. I just want to follow up. Just like Oscar De La Hoya, you know, he was a fighter, so he kind of feels like he knows best what the fighters need and what they want. So do you think guys like Anthony Pettis and Jose Aldo, do you think they're gonna make this a thing now? Like, I'm in boxing now. I'm messing with Gamebred Boxing. This is what I'm gonna do. It's not a one-off.
Aldo, I know, is full-time committed to boxing. I've heard from his managers, his sources, training. He's full-time embarking on the boxing mission, pugilist all the way. Pettis, I know he's still gonna be entertaining MMA and doing boxing and stuff like that. Jeremy Stevens, from what I'm hearing, he's gonna do boxing and MMA as well. But the only one that's going to fully concentrate on boxing is Aldo, and it makes sense. He's done it. There's no more you could do in MMA. He's done everything. Yeah, you know, he's the greatest.
Longest reigning champ. Like,
if he's not the best, you know, then what do you put him? You know, tied with whoever you would think is the best, because there's nobody really better than Aldo. So in MMA, he's done everything he could do. You know, why not go into boxing?
How can people watch this card?
We're on pay-per-view. Pay-per-view on demand, your linear pay-per-view. You go on Comcast or whatever, click it up. If you want the digital rights, UFC Fight Pass.
How much is it?
You got to check online.
Don't let me go and see $79.99.
They told me never say prices online. So
oh, wow.
Okay. All right, no problem. Let's talk about UFC 287, Jorge, April 8th. Are you being a promoter, right? It takes a lot of energy and you're heavily involved into this boxing thing. Are you giving yourself enough time to train and be prepared at the athlete that you've always been?
Definitely. So I'll run you through my day real quick, kind of, and you'll see why I've been doing this for so long and I'm able to make it efficient. You know, I wake up, maybe I'll get like a little run in or something, then stretch out, and I take off to American Top Team, which is an hour away from me. I live in Miami. This is in Coconut Creek. In that hour, I get on the phone. I chop up a lot of calls. We send emails, connect dots, this and that. I get to practice. I train for about 2 to 3 hours. Then I get back on the phone on my way down as I'm eating my lunch, get these phone calls done. I get home. I take my nap. I wake up. I go to the gym. I come back from the gym. I get back on the phone at night. Another hour and a half of either whether doing interviews or talking with matchmakers, sponsors, whatever it may be. And basically my life is just fighting, from fighting to fighting, you know? And my job is, obviously, I'm not the email guy. I'm not like the logistic guy. I'm the, hey, do we want this guy in the card? Yeah, let me go look at his last 5-6 fights. Nah, I don't want him. Why? He's not dogging him. That's my job. So it's like, yeah, it could be a lot draining for some guys, but I'm not the logistics guy either. I'm not finding out what flight is the cheapest to get that. That's not me. There's a whole department for that, you know? I'm just, hey, I like this guy. I like what I see. I like the price tag attached to him. Let's put this guy on. Let's go.
When you fly Baraka, don't get the cheap flight. So we don't want the cheap.
That's not his department. All right. So let's say you're at a Starbucks in Miami, and Kobe Covington walks in. Nobody's around but the employees at Starbucks. What happens?
I can say what allegedly could happen, but I can't even, man, as it is right now, I can't even say that dude's name because they already got, his little ass has 3 felonies on me already, and he's trying to get even more, So
that ain't no game. That ain't no game.
Yeah. You know, so I can't.
When do you think you're gonna be broken free from that? How long this process is gonna take?
I don't know, man. You know, it's crazy because they're saying like a lot of things, but that's another reason why I didn't come back to fighting. You know, I was dealing with a lot of outside things, getting it done, but things are looking better every day, and my faith is in God anyway. So I'm not worried about what these devils could do or think they could do. You know, it's just. It's crazy because you can't run up on people and think that, you know, things don't happen. But I can't say much more, man.
Yeah, I got you. No, I get it. It's a lot of legal issues. Now, let's talk about Usman and Edwards. How does the rematch play out?
I'm very interested in that one because especially you guys being from boxing, you guys know psychologically, you just never know how you come back from a knockout, especially being first.
That's true.
Yes.
That's the thing that I'm most interested to see Usman. How is he coming back? Obviously, Usman was dictating the pace last time. I thought he was winning a majority of the fight, like how I guessed it. But I also thought that on the stand-up, that same left high kick that caught him would be like the only thing that could pose problems because the way that he fights, how he wrestles, how he leans and stuff like that. So definitely something that he could address and fix and then, you know, cover that and keep going. But psychologically, is he going to be there in such short time? We're about to find that. Is it going to make him change to a complete different fighter where he's only going to be just wrestling every position?
Where would you be at? Like, what would be your mindset? Because like in boxing, there's a boxer by the name of Dillian White. He had got knocked out by another boxer by the name of Alexander Povetkin. But he was winning the fight before that. He dropped him twice before that. He was winning. He got caught. He got knocked out. He immediately wanted the rematch, came back, rematched him, knocked him out 1 round earlier than he got knocked out. So he was telling himself, I was winning the fight. I just slipped up. Would that be your mindset? You were winning. I made a mistake. I'm coming back and I'm going to win.
Definitely. That'd be the mistake 100%. Get to the gym, hey, well, sit down with my coaches. What did I do wrong? Oh, this is what you did wrong. And you did it numerous times throughout the fight. This is just the time that he made you pay the price. We can't ever do this again. Okay, let's get to it. And then we get to the laboratory and we start fixing. But, you know, we're still fighters, right? We're still like, and I'm a stand-up guy. So I know I've had a good chin for most of my career. He's not necessarily a stand-up guy. He's a wrestler guy. Yes. That started fighting his last 2-3 fights more stand-up oriented, you know, more stand-up involved in his fight. So maybe maybe I don't have the same chin. So that's where I'm thinking the psychological part could come in, where he's gonna just come to wrestle hard. And not that that's a problem, because that's the option you have in MMA. But that might change up his style. That might make him, you know, get more tired or overreach. So I think Usman's a very strong competitor. I think he's gonna come back strong. It's just when it's somebody's first knockout, I'm always very eager to see how they come back.
Right. Yeah. But do you remember the days when, like, in the beginning of the UFC, when you had like the Gracie didn't know how to box? No. Gracie had no stand-up. He was the worst looking stand-up guy ever. He run into you with his gi, you know, like this, with his head down. And if he wasn't good, you couldn't. Like, do you remember those days? Those days are gone probably because everybody's so versatile, correct? So you can't just be like a great wrestler and beat everybody.
No, and Gracie didn't even have wrestling. He was a jiu-jitsu guy. You know?
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying because of Usman. That's why. But at first, Gracie was killing everybody until people started learning the ground. Right? They started learning the ground.
Just jiu-jitsu, not even wrestling. It was just jiu-jitsu. He'd grab somebody's head, either he'd bring him on top of himself, or he'd take him down, and then that's it. It was game over. You know? Yeah. That's why MMA is always awesome, and I think guys could fight a little longer than boxing because we have different options. You know, you could wrestle more now since you've gotten older. Maybe your reflexes aren't at their peak, but now you could wrestle, which requires different reflexes. Not the same. The feeling of grappling against the radar that boxing and MMA striking takes. You know, so that's one thing that Usman could always use. But it could always change his style psychologically. I still think that I'm cheering for Leon, obviously. So I mean, him can get it on, but I think Usman wins. You know?
Yeah, no doubt. Speaking of MMA fighters fighting for a very long time, you're a businessman, obviously, man. You know how to get to the money and create things. When are you going to be done with the cage and just fighting in general?
I've pondered on this question before a long time ago in my career, and then it's more recent. I thank God every day that I train at the best gym I think that has ever been produced for MMA American Top Team. We have the most champions, we have the most belts, you know. And in our up-and-coming staff of killers that's on the rise right now, it's like unbelievable, you know. So I have, I think, a wealth of talent where I can go into this gym and train with the world's current best, you know, like numerous world champions that we have now, and the upcoming best of tomorrow. And I always just thought something. To be honest, I shouldn't say this on like public interviews because then Dana White and the UFC will be like, and they'll try to use it against me, but I love fighting, man. I love to be in there. Maybe not all the preparation that it takes to be in the cage, but man, do I love being in that cage. I love to compete. That's what I like to do, is just fight, you know? So I take it like, if I can't compete at the gym and hang with these young killers that are up and coming or established, once my days have come that I'm losing more rounds than winning, this is like a clear message to me, like, hey, you're not the same. And I'm not gonna be nobody's stepping stool or be a stepping stone for somebody to now come up and take my spot, you know, when a lot of these guys probably wouldn't even hold my jock strap in my prime. So
maybe if you can't, maybe not competing with the young killers in the gym, but there's still other fighters that are big fights for you, like Conor McGregor's and those those fights you're still open for.
Yeah. Oh, I'm open for all those fights and the best in the world. All I'm trying to do now is that Gilbert right now is number 3 or 4 in the world. So after him, I'll be able to fight for a title. So I just either I want to fight the world's best or I want to get paid the most money. That, like I said in the beginning, that's what I signed up for.
Right. Now you want to do all of those together. Ideally, you love to fight the best and get the top dollar. But give me a scenario here, Jorge. If let's say the fighting god said, look, you have only 3 fights in your career and that's it. Name those 3 opponents in the order that you want them in.
Not counting this one that I already have.
No, not counting this one. Not counting this one.
It'd be Leon, Usman, and Kobe. Or Kobe, Leon, Usman, but I have to get back in there.
So Conor, I thought Conor would be in that 3, but
definitely, I would love that, but I'm not gonna get that guy in the cage there unless we put a gun to his head. He doesn't even mention me. Dana White, the whole team has told him, I am the biggest fight that he could possibly book.
It's a massive fight.
Massive fight. The biggest fight that he could do, the biggest paycheck he could cash out in his whole thing in MMA, not in boxing, because Floyd's a whole different other animal. Talking about in MMA, just in MMA, I'm the biggest name that he could fight. I'm currently active, and I compete at 170 pounds, which he's competed at that weight class numerous times now. His actual last 2 or 3 fights have been at 170. So it's something that's doable. But every time they'd offered him, he shut it down. He won't speak about it on media. If I don't exist, so I can't force a man to do that.
Right.
But these other fighters, I think I could entice him with enough money to get back in there with me.
Okay, well, speaking of Conor, last question. What do you think about the fight between Conor and Chandler? Who wins?
I don't know, man. It's hard because they both seem like at some point in the fight they'll give in, they'll get a little tired and give in to somebody else's will. So I don't know who will give in faster. I don't know who's in better shape. I don't know if Conor's been training or not. If Conor's in his prime, I think he would go through Chandler. He'd beat him. He'd find a way to take care of it. But I don't know what type of lifestyle he's been living as of late, So if he's in shape, I'd put my money on Conor. If not, probably Chandler wins.
All right.
Well, on that note, Game Bread Boxing is going down April 1st. Make sure you guys check with your cable.
April 1st.
That's right.
Yo, it's a mystery price, but it's paid
don't know how
per view.
much.
And then April 8th.
No,
It's your
June
boy.
8th. June 8th, right?
No, mine's a week after April 8th.
But you also got a card in June as well. I'm like,
we're working on that one. We haven't announced yet.
Oh, well, I know everything. I'm sorry. I'm spilling the beans.
So you putting a
April
boxing
1st.
show on April Fool's Day, and then a week later he's gonna get it in the cage.
That's crazy.
UFC 287. That's crazy, man. It's never not working. Our guy, Mr. Game Bread, Jorge Masvidal. Thank you for taking the time, champ.
Fellas,
brother.
One thing you guys always for having me. Exposing me to your peoples, man. You guys are the best, my brothers. God bless.
Thank you, bro. God bless you too, man. Thank you.
Introducing the new DAZN Boxing Show podcast. No matter the time or the place, getting your boxing content has become easier than ever. Tune in as we give you exclusive insights, predictions, fight night recaps, and more alongside the biggest names in the game. All for free. Available globally every Thursday across all audio streaming platforms and with new episodes dropping weekly to give you the latest news. Just type in the DAZN Boxing Show podcast, listen in, and enjoy.